I was told if a person comes out of the basement, don't let them go.
It was so putrid, we literally had to get the fire department out there.
When I first met Pazuzu, he told me that he was the gatekeeper of hell.
Hello, my name is Zach Moss. I study U.S. security as well as kind of the criminal justice system. I also have experience working for a CSI lab for approximately 3 years. Now, today I'm going to be reviewing the case of Pazuzu Algarad. Now, I'm going to be using Vice's footage as well as other footage. I apologize, I'm going to have to stop the footage occasionally for copyright reasons. Now, the reason why I actually want to talk about this is because it highlights a number of issues regarding our mental health infrastructure and our prison system. Now, you might be wondering, how is this cannibal murder related to those types of things? I can't give it away. That has to do with the end. A lot of people dropped the ball and a lot of people got hurt when dealing with this particular individual. Again, most of this is going to be footage. The reason why I'm like smiling and stuff, even though we're talking about cannibal murders, is because of the fact that this has got to be, I would bet, that this is going to be the gnarliest story you've ever heard in the last year. I would bet my life savings on it, which is approximately $26.50. Now, let me give you a real quick background. So this case was from 2014. I got my little notes right here so I can be nice and prepared. So his name was originally John Lawson. However, he changed his name to Pazuzu Algarad, which is the freak chick from the original Exorcist. For those of you who are aware of what I'm talking about, this is the girl who stabbed herself with the cross in her... You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, agoraphobia, which is the fear or anxiety regarding social, particularly social locations, and alcoholism. Now, an interesting fun fact about him is he actually filed his teeth as well. He filed his teeth into little points. He was a declared Satanist, and he apparently only bathed once a year and didn't brush his teeth in years because he believes that odor was the body's natural protection against infection and illness. So the very first video footage I wanted to show you is regarding his girlfriends that he calls his fiancés. Now, one of the individuals who's going to be discussed, her name is Bubbles. She ended up being an accomplice in multiple murders. Anyway, here's the footage.
North Carolina's in the Bible Belt. It's God's country. One of the reasons there was so much hype around Pazuzu, and a big part of Pazuzu's infamy in the local underworld, and the myth he was able to build up around himself, was a direct response to the evangelical Christian fervor in his community.
I do believe in the devil. The devil preys on the weak. Winston-Salem was full of weak people. I was a preacher's daughter. I was heavily involved in church.
Classic.
Doing the Lord's work. When I first met Pazuzu, he told me that he was the gatekeeper of hell. The first time I met them. I drove Amber, or Bubbles, and Pazuzu home. When I saw their front door, that's when I knew something was highly wrong. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to leave immediately. But they asked me to stay and watch a home video of theirs. The video was of Pazuzu and Bubbles dancing around naked. Bubbles lying on a bed in one scene, doing inappropriate things to herself. I knew the video made me nauseous. It was intense.
I don't know what that is.
Pazuzu in one shot had a knife.
Sexual acts, maybe?
And a bloody bandana on his head. Apparently, it was Josh's bandana.
Now, Josh is one of Pazuzu's friends that their friend circle had believed Pazuzu had killed. So that was the idea. I'll give you more information on that in a little bit.
From what I was told by everyone that hung out with him, they had trapped him in a basement. And they had starved him for days. And either before or after they shot him, they cut off his extremities, his arms and his legs and his penis. And they buried him in pieces. Crystal was proud to tell everyone she knew that she was involved.
He had spoken to me on several occasions that he had killed homeless people and done a whole bunch of other people really badly, shot a few people, stabbed a few people. There was never any proof to my knowledge of any of these things happening. You know, I just thought that he was trying to look cool.
Another interesting aspect about Pazuzu was that apparently he would routinely drink human blood and claimed to have eaten 2 prostitutes and then buried and burned the rest of the body. Interesting aspect about Pazuzu, though, is that he had information about cases that weren't yet solved. And so could we believe that some of these things might be true? That's probably safe to say.
I was there hanging out and Paz told me, hey, I got a person in my basement. Okay, cool, whatever, dude. It's not my problem.
Didn't decide to check? Maybe it's his friend?
I was told if a person comes out of the basement, don't let them go. No one ever made a sound. No one ever knocked on a door. No one ever did anything. I was told that there was a person in the basement. I said, sure. If they come out of the basement, I'll make sure they don't leave. Clearly thinking that they're full of shit.
And yet nobody have seen their friend?
Pazuzu looked at me, grabbed a very large knife. It was more or less a sword, but he said, I've done something. He didn't say what he had done. He said, you're gonna help me dig this hole or I'm gonna kill you.
My name is Tarina Billings, and I was the first person to come forward to the police in the Pazuzu Algarad case. Crystal Matlock, she invited Pazuzu and his girlfriend over. And so everybody's having a good time drinking. A few hours later, he starts bragging about how he shot a guy 6 times with a shotgun and how he had the body downstairs in the basement covered with cat litter and bleach to keep the smell down. And we all thought he was lying because he was drunk and we're like, he's crazy.
So overall, there was 2 bodies that were found. Number 1 was Joshua Weltzer. Now, he was starved for days, and according to witnesses, like you had just seen, his limbs were chopped off and his penis were chopped off. I assume the limbs, at least, would have to be chopped off after the death. The reason is because the cause of death was through a bullet hole in the head, which CSI experts can determine based off of the how the bullet comes out of the head, supplemented with if there's any tissue deposits, you could track the blood. I digress. The other person was Tommy D. Welch. Now, he was killed by Bubbles. So Pazuzu killed Joshua, and Tommy was killed by Bubbles. Now, here's the entrance of the house. So after he was arrested, police had to go inside of his house. This is very notable. The reason why I want to show this is because it really lets us in on the mind of this individual.
People would come to Pazuzu's house because they knew it was free reign. There was no rules, no anything that you had to abide by. You could piss in his carpet, you could smash a TV, you could hit somebody in the head with a beer bottle, you could throw a knife at his wall. It just didn't matter.
You knock on the door and immediately you hear a shit ton of dogs barking. And then Pazuzu answers the door. You're greeted with this smell of just ammonia and urea. It just smells like straight urine.
That's his friend.
And rotting matter, you know, greets you as soon as that door is opened.
That's Pazuzu and Bubbles.
Crazy looking enough, you know, with the long ratty ass dreadlocks and all his teeth filed down to a point. Which later come to find out he did high as hell on meth one day.
As they do.
There was always black metal blaring at ungodly ear-shattering volumes. There was always glass getting smashed, people fighting.
People will get so drunk there that human beings would just pop a squat in a corner and take a crap. And God knows when it would get cleaned up, or the dogs might eat it, or whatever.
Something that's interesting to note about the dogs, because those are continuously referenced, is Pazuzu, he would routinely torture small animals and drink their blood. And so, I hate to say it, but a lot of the animals that we're seeing were more than likely killed and tortured to death between Pazuzu and his friends, particularly with Bubbles.
You know, it's like this mad place where you can act out your darkest and sickest fantasies to no judgment. And actually, I can see the appeal for a generation here who is having a hard time even finding a job. You know, the idea that you can go somewhere judgment-free with no pressure on you, somebody's gonna give you drugs and let you behave however you want, there's an appeal to that.
Nothing that could prepare you for what you saw inside Pazuzu's house.
This is the police webcam, or not webcam, police footage.
Yeah, it's definitely unfit for human habitat.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's
The filth
something.
had a smell. It was at that house.
Ooh.
Is that thing dead?
No, it's alive. Going down the hallway, there's a bathroom on the right-hand side. Just up from that was Pazuzu's room. The room that we referred to as the altar room.
Holy shit.
It was so putrid. We literally had to get the fire department out there. We wore hazmat gear and Scott air packs into that.
But did he sleep in that room? I couldn't imagine him sleeping there. Like, what section? Would he just sleep on top of the knives and garbage?
You would be hard-pressed to be inside the house and not think that the person who lived there was capable of about anything.
Okay, wow. All right, where do we start with that? So first, the county that Pazuzu lived in, they declared that the house was unfit for human habitation. As you could imagine, that was quite something. Look, I've been to my fair share amount of parties, but that one's particularly notable. So what they had found was that there was a code officer, and in his report, he had said that the house contained hundreds of dead and living flies. Now, again, you couldn't really see too much because obviously the footage was a little jacked up, but there's feces and urine that had been ground into the floor and the walls so much to where it would apparently be nearly impossible to be able to ground out. Also, there was decayed animal parts and remains inside of cages, dried blood-like substance on the walls, and, well, apparently a couple bodies. Anyway, let's keep going. That's the backyard. Those are really lazy, shallow graves you just saw.
Jumped over, scared the shit out of me.
By mid-afternoon, they had located a skeleton. It looked like they had just dug a shallow grave and just folded them up into it.